Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this The Clown Decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And today it's another fairly depressing one, I'm afraid, but it's a topic that I just don't feel I can avoid. And it is naturally the social topic that is on everyone's minds at the moment, the assisted dying bill. And I've not really gone through this bill properly before, and to be honest I don't think I will. Because the issue isn't necessarily the bill itself, it's what the bill could lead to. And I have had it said multiple times in all the interviews and all the information I've seen on it, that in the UK they are trying to restrict it to anyone over the age of 18 who is effectively already at death's door. And one of the, I suppose you can call it good things about it, is that it explicitly forbids people with mental illnesses from being able to take their own lives. So there is a safeguard there at the very least. But as I say, it's where this bill could lead to that is the issue, because I've also had it on good authority that in Scotland they're bringing their own bill in, because this particular bill only affects England and Wales, and that is going to let 16-year-olds say that they want euthanasia, and does not explicitly exempt people with mental illnesses from the condition. So already we are seeing issues with even bringing this assisted dying bill around. Scotland is already going too far. So as far as I care, the only actual argument you need is that, yes, the slippery slope does actually affect the assisted dying bill. We have already seen it in Canada. If you don't think it's going to affect the UK, it's already affecting the UK. Anyway, my point in this video is to kind of go beyond that. The slippery slope, as far as I care, is already dead and buried as an argument. It's done. It's proven correct. I've gone through the evidence in less than a minute. No, I've got a much greater concern in that euthanasia appears to me to be pushed by two particular type of people. One are naive people, and I include some of the reform people in this, Richard Tice especially, who think, oh, this is only going to be a bill that's ever going to affect people who are already dying. There's basically no chance that there's any clinical trials or experimental medical procedures that we can perform on these people. They've got no quality of life whatsoever. They can't move out of bed. They're in immense pain. Let's just put them out of their misery. Naive people like that. And that argument, I think, has more legs than any other. However, I do reject it because, unfortunately, even in that stage, your life still has value, and we should do everything to continue that precious life. But obviously, there's lots of people who don't agree, and as this issue started propping up again, actor Liz Carr decided to go around the world to see how assisted dying actually works. And for all the naive people out there, this program was the one that made them start to really think about this issue and started turning people's opinions away from, if I'm dying, I want to go out as quickly as I can. Mainly because she ended up finding some, quite frankly, psychopaths.
So then they come here, and this is a recliner, and so people recline here, and they can snuggle up with their loved ones if they want, and so it's good place for some people. Mm-hmm.
It's the feigning of care. It's the feigning of, I am doing a good thing for some people, when in reality she's kind of just telling someone, this is my death chair. This is where I bring people to kill them. I understand that Liz has asked, what work do you do here? And she is just answering that question, but there's something about saying, I bring people here to die. And again, this is in Canada. This isn't necessarily terminally ill people who are in excruciating pain for the last few days of their life. This is likely going to be including people who are going through a depressive episode, possibly people who have cancer and just would rather not go through chemotherapy, but do have all these other options. You know, this is where the slippery slope leads you, ultimately. And already, just from this clip alone, I think people will start already thinking, the type of person who's going to do this to me as well, they are quite open and almost smiling through, not even almost, just smiling through this whole explanation about how they're going to kill me. I'm not being funny, but if someone is smiling when they're talking about killing me, I don't particularly want to have anything to do with that person.
This is the one that has to be signed in front of an independent witness. And
who would that be?
It has to be somebody who is not in the will and not a direct caregiver like me.
Could you a receptionist or
yes, because they're not directly involved in care.
And again, this is the part that gets all the naive people to... It's effectively the Mott and Bailey argument for these psychopaths of, oh, look, here's a process, it's all safeguarded, an independent person's here in the room as they sign it to say, yes, I want to die. When, the argument all comes back to, I just don't think we should even give people the option to let someone else kill them if they want to die. Life is too sacred for that. There are some things in this world that are too sacred that your choice simply cannot trump. And life is one of those things that's too valuable to give people this choice over. There is nobody on planet Earth that thinks when someone has committed suicide that they say, well, that was the right thing to do. There's nobody. If you're feeling suicidal, please call the Samaritans. There are plenty of people out there who want to help you.
How many maid deaths have you been involved with?
Over 400.
That sounds like a lot. Is that what you do now? Is that
No, I still run a contraception and abortion clinic in addition to my maid work.
See what I mean? It's total psychopathy. This is human sacrifice for the good of, for lack of a better term, liberalism, fifth layer liberalism as I call it, the latest progressive kind. The kind where they've decided that the human is so sovereign, the individual is so sovereign that every choice they make needs to be respected no matter what. And actually, with that choice that they make, not only does it need to be implemented, we need to make sure that there's no negative consequences from it. It is a completely loony outlook on life. I mean this unironically. This is a woman that is just addicted to killing. Literally what she has said there is that, yeah, my main job is contraceptive and an abortion clinic. So, I kill babies for a living, but in my spare time I kill adults. This is the world that Canada has allowed here. They've allowed a literal psychopath to be kind of their poster girl, I guess, for the MAID project, and she is a psychopath. And that is exactly what you'd get here. There are not many people alive who would be happy ending another person's life even if they wanted it. I'm not joking when I say this. I've had these conversations with my dad, who has seen people get dementia, and he hates the idea of it. And he has said to me before, if I'm in that place, take me to Switzerland, end my life. And I just keep telling him, no, I'm not doing it. Even in that state, your life is still valuable. There are some things in life, I'm afraid, that your choice should have absolutely no bearing over. And how you value your own life is one of those things. Don't kill yourself.
Would you ever say no?
Of course, I have. Oh, yes. I mean, we have a law, and I obey this law.
I want to make this point very clear. She is a psychopath, but only within the bounds of the law. That is effectively what is being said here. Oh, I'll follow the law, but any person I can get away with killing, I will do it. And it's not even a joke, by the way. I mean, I don't particularly want to go through this clip too much more. It was about everywhere like a month ago, and if you want to see the full clip, it's on Twitter. But you just look at any interview with her, and she just comes out as a psychopath. I've killed more than 400 patients, many more deserve to die. Dr. Ellen Wibe, known as Canada's High Priestess of Medically Assisted Dying, some see her work as disturbing. She views this as a privilege to give people control. Whereas again, as I say, she is literally just a psychopath. It's very rewarding, says Wibe, 72, who has been dubbed the High Priestess of MAID. It's an immense privilege to give people choices. Wibe is one of Canada's most prominent practitioners of MAID, having helped some 430 people die since euthanasia was legalised in the country in 2016. And again, she does that part-time. Her main job is abortion. So then patients must consent twice in advance and then on the day of their death before Wibe injects them with a lethal cocktail of drugs that induces unconsciousness followed by cardiac or respiratory arrest. She says their passing is swift and painless. I'm sure that's true. That doesn't mean we should be doing this, obviously. But it is the profile of her patients that has generated controversy. A high-flying businesswoman diagnosed with dementia in her 50s. A military veteran suffering from PTSD and chronic pain. He could have lived for decades more, Wibe admits. Exactly. This is people's problem. You have opened the door to suicide. You have said, this is acceptable now. Not only are you going to get more people saying, hi, I want to kill myself 3 times this one, but you're also going to get people hanging themselves from rafters because they see this as a legitimate choice. I don't think we should ever make this a legitimate choice. Oh, and her story gets worse, by the way. A British Columbia judge has issued a rare last-minute injunction barring a woman from accessing euthanasia after physicians in her home province refused to approve the request. The injunction granted to the woman's common law partner blocks the Vancouver physician Ellen Weib, or any other medical professional, from causing the death of an Alberta woman within the next 30 days. The court order comes as the county remains in a fractious debate over the expansion of medical assistance in dying or MAID. Earlier this week, Quebec became the first province to allow people to make the decision years in advance, a violation of federal law. The slippery slope isn't real, though. It's completely implausible that these things could get worse. In the British Columbia case, the injunction comes after the woman's partner filed a notice of civil claim alleging Weib to negligently approve the procedure for a patient who does not legally qualify, and if she were to administer MAID, would constitute a battery of the patient, wrongful death, and potentially a criminal offence, according to the Canadian press. So again, she says no, but she only says no in the very obvious cases. In the grey areas, she'll still say yes. She would have killed this woman because she's ended up with akathisia after she ended up taking some drugs to help with her bipolar disorder. So just to make this clear, Canadian healthcare system, which, as far as I'm aware, isn't too far away from how the NHS works, has effectively allowed a woman to take drugs that has caused bad side effects, let her keep taking it to the point where, as we can see, it is life-changing, and then, because of this mistake, have said, have you thought about killing yourself? And the person who was going to administer the death drug has rushed it through so that she can get kill 431 under her belt. As I say, not only is this psychotic, but also, in a failing system, you're effectively going to rush people through to death. That is the opposite of what a healthcare system should do. Anyway, let's drag this back to the topic at hand, which is the assisted dying bill. So for those who don't know, this is a private member's bill, meaning that it is a bill that has been put forward by a member of the House of Commons. Not particularly along party lines, but instead from a private member with an awful lot of MPs making up their own decisions and voting for and against it. Tories genuinely seem to do the best here by voting generally against it. Reform, it was not a party position at all, so the individuals voted one way or another. Nige voted against it, but most of the others voted for it. Not good, obviously, but unfortunately, because of how naive the public are on this issue, it is a popular position. Something like 73% of the population of the UK are generally in favour of assisted dying because they think it only means giving a cocktail of death drugs to people who are hours away from dying anyway. Generally, as we can see in Canada, that's not how it works, but people aren't aware of that. With the scandals that are going to happen with the NHS under our own assisted dying system, though, I think this is one of those things that is going to become very unpopular very quickly. And it's a damn shame people are going to have to die for us to realise that life is sacred again. But unfortunately it's the clown decade and, well, this is an example of things getting worse. Anyway, this is a bill that has been brought in by Labour MP Kim Leadbeater. And we're just going to be going through some of the arguments that she has been making in favour of this bill, because she seems to be completely unaware that this is an experiment that has been tried all over the world. And as we saw from the Canadian High Priestess of Human Sacrifice, it never seems to end particularly well. And as I say, it is just naivety that is going to enable psychopathy. So take it away, Kim Leadbeater.
Are you concerned that in a survey of Canadians who ended their lives, although the vast majority did say that they wanted to die because they'd lost their ability to engage in meaningful life activities, but more than 1/3 did say their desire to do so was in part informed by a feeling that they were a perceived burden on family, friends or caregivers?
Yeah, 1/3 of people who have killed themselves in Canada did so because they felt like they were a burden on other people. And the problem is that when someone is in that state, it's quite hard to hide the fact that they're a burden. I know, I have seen it myself. But again, it is not a reason to let someone kill themselves or get someone to kill them because they feel like they are a burden. Their life is still valuable, innately. It's the point of being a human being.
I mean, that's a fact.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Canada clearly a much broader set of criteria, nothing like we've been proposing at the moment.
But the impulse was the same.
But yeah, and I think that is the conversation that would take place with the doctors. So if someone is sitting there saying, I might as well just go on being a burden to everyone, the doctor will clearly pick up on that and will clearly say, hang on a minute, this is about you and it's about your choice.
But if they still say, I want to do that anyway.
I mean, again, we just look over at Canada. That's not true. We went through the Guardian article, and it took the woman's husband to get the courts involved to say, please don't kill yourself. Do you really think that Dr. Ellen was there telling this woman, oh no, you shouldn't do it just because you feel like a burden. Tell you what, I'll send you to mental health services. No, she didn't say that. She said, oh, let me just finish up this abortion. I'll get right to you. We can sign the papers in front of my receptionist. As I say, this is the perfect, and I mean the absolute perfect start to get the slippery slope to start enabling psychopaths. How do I know this? Canada.
Would, under your system, it still happen?
Well, there is an argument that having personal choice and autonomy is part of the whole process. However, they would have to be assessed to having the capacity and making sure that no one else has coerced them into doing that.
I said this in another video, but seriously, how do you even determine that? I mean, human interaction is a ridiculously complicated process. Trying to just find out where coercion has even happened is close to impossible. And it's why it's a subject that, frankly, we should just not even touch, because there is no way you can say with 100% certainty that someone has not been pushed in one way or another, or coerced in one way or another, to make a decision. And as I say elsewhere, you are just opening the door to even thinking, letting people think that suicide is a decent option. It's not. It never should be.
So I appreciate that is a very delicate issue. I mean, there are people who've said to me, and I think my mum would probably say this to me, but surely being concerned about being a burden is a legitimate reason as well, in terms of, I know I wouldn't want to be a burden to people, I can say that to you now in the clear light of day, but that's very different to people saying, I'm doing this because I feel like I'm being a burden.
There's not much difference there. I don't want to be a burden to anyone, but I can't do anything myself. Oh, the door's open there where I can kill myself, I guess I'll go there. I mean, already it's going beyond what the idea of the assisted dying bill was for, which is people in their last few hours or days, maybe, having the cocktail of drugs to kill them. That was the whole idea of this, and already she is opening the door to the slippery slope of saying, oh, well, if someone's a burden, isn't the whole point of this choice? Isn't the whole point that we should open the door to suicide? Effectively, that's what she said there. She's already gone down the slippery slope. As I said before, already she's opening the door to enable psychopaths. This needs to be stopped. It's not law yet, it's not going to royal assent, there is another reading of the bill. I implore you, please write to your MP to stop this. Anyway, this wasn't the only centrist dad podcast that she ended up on. She also ended up with Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell talking about this issue, because, as I say, it seems to be the number one social issue of this week.
Point that she didn't feel that doctors, particularly doctors under pressure in a really struggling National Health Service, necessarily have the wherewithal or even the time to check into issues like coercion.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got horror stories from going to the GP or A&E or something like that. Doctors get things wrong. I mean, firstly, that's an issue. But yeah, secondly, they're already overburdened. They have people coming up to them saying, hi, I want euthanasia. As is being said here, how are they even supposed to tell that these complex human interactions have a level of coercion in them? I mean, of course they'll have a level in coercion in them. It's part of human interaction. But how are they supposed to test that? And what is Leadbeater's point against this?
Point. So on coercion, there's support from all different sides of Parliament. Another Conservative MP has just come out this morning saying he'll support the bill. He's a former surgeon and a barrister, Neil Shastrahurst, I think his name is. So there's support coming in from all different directions. We've got Peter Prinsley, who's one of the new Labour MPs, who was a ear, nose and throat specialist. He says, this is what doctors do. Doctors check with patients for coercion in other circumstances at the moment all the time. And I think it's...
Yeah, and the NHS keep getting in hot water because they're not catching it and because they keep making screw-ups. Like, it's a little different if we gave you the wrong prescription and we didn't realise you were being coerced into taking antidepressants you probably shouldn't have been. It's a little different to, oh, sorry, we coerced you into killing yourself, isn't it? Lord above, and you're not going to have someone who's worked in the NHS saying it was terrible. It's just not what they do. They make their money off it. Of course they want to keep the gravy train there going.
It's been a bit disrespectful to medical professionals to suggest that they don't.
Listen, there have been plenty of horror stories that I have heard from the NHS. The worst one I've ever heard has resulted in someone dying for literally no reason whatsoever. literally died because they went in for heart surgery. A positive COVID test came back because they rushed through, so they had to stitch her heart up back together because they weren't allowed to continue. Sent her home. Her stitches came out in the night, so she had to go to hospital, and then she caught a disease on one of the wards she was put in and died. And you can't sue the NHS in the UK for things like that, so isn't that great? But with major screw-ups like that directly led to a death, am I really going to trust them to do their due diligence here? No, of course I'm not. Oh, it's disrespectful to healthcare professionals. Well, you know what? So be it. I've heard enough horror stories to treat them with a bit of scepticism as whether they go through their due diligence. I know people who work for the NHS, they do their job, they're absolutely fine with it, good at it even, but it is moronic to try and suggest that there is going to be no problems with this. It is moronic to say that.
But again, as I say, go back to the previous point, there is no one checking for coercion now with people who are taking their own lives, who are terminally ill.
I don't even think that's true. It's a crime to goad someone into suicide. In fact, no, even I know this isn't true. If there's a suicide, there is an inquest. They look into why they killed themselves. Was there any coercion? Are you kidding me? That is the whole point of an inquest. How did this death happen? Oh, there was coercion in there? Right, someone goes to jail then. What are you talking about?
So surely having it written in law within a legal framework with layers and layers of checks is far, far better than the situation we've got now.
I massively reject this. Oh, some people kill themselves and they're coerced into it. Well, we don't check if they were coerced there. One, yes we do, it's called an inquest. Two, even if that was the case, why is your answer to say, oh, well, people are doing this anyway, let's just write it into law, that makes it better? No, people still shoplift to this day. Because people shoplift, does that mean we should just make shoplifting legal? No. So why are you saying we should here? Why are you using this particular line of thought here? Oh, I know, it's because this is your pet project, but you've not thought through it at all. You're one of these naive people who sadly probably has had an experience with a dying loved one, who probably did go through quite a bit of pain, but you're letting that naivety run away with you. And I'm afraid to say it's going to cause a hell of a lot more death and pain than you would probably be willing to let happen, but you're letting your naivety run away with you. And it's frankly embarrassing. And when she runs out of things to say, she just goes slightly on this psychopathic line of thought, as is pretty much essentially what you have to do to support this type of bill, I am afraid to say.
We're talking a lot about process, and I understand why people want to talk about process, but what I'd actually really like to do in these last few days of debate and discussion is talk about the families who are dying horrendous deaths, dealing with people who are taking their own lives, dealing with people who have got no other alternative than to go to another country for assisted death if they can afford it. I spent a couple of hours in Parliament last night with palliative care specialists who have said, yes, they do a brilliant job and we value that, but they cannot meet everyone's needs. So you have people taking hours to die, days to die, traumatising loved ones. So I think what we need to do is get back to the problem that we need to solve.
Do you hear what she effectively said there? These people are taking too long to die and it's traumatising their loved ones and people giving them palliative care. What she has said here is that palliative care clearly is not good enough. Guess we should just kill people because they're being selfish and not dying quick enough. That is exactly what she has said there. And if that is part of what is justifying this bill, it should absolutely be shot down and never brought to Parliament again. What a ridiculous thing to say. Anyway, that is enough of Leadbeater. It is now time to move on to another fanatical supporter of this from the Labour benches, Eccles, who was effectively majorly brought into this whole conversation after what I can only describe as one of the stupidest things I've seen in Parliament, where a Tory MP was talking about this bill and he effectively called this bill the state-sanctioned suicide bill. And she took, frankly, pathetic issue with that.
Councillor Eccles, point of order.
He's using the incorrect language. It's not suicide. That's offensive. Please correct your language, Mr.
That's not a point of order, Danny.
Yeah, please don't use suicide. I find that very offensive. Oh, you find it offensive, do you? Well, allow this Tory MP to school you then.
I'm grateful for I'm afraid to say, and I'm sorry if offence is given, the fact is that the value of actually having a bill in black and white is that we do need to see what the law really is. And what this bill would do, it would amend the Suicide Act of 1961. It will allow people to assist with a suicide for the first time.
Yeah, this is a bill that is going to amend the Suicide Act, because it is going to allow assisted suicide. And I'm afraid if you're saying, oh, the word suicide offends me, you know, there's an awful lot of bad connotations here, maybe you shouldn't be supporting this bill then. But as I say, when it comes to an awful lot of the MPs, this is entirely down to naivety. The psychopaths are the people who are trying to emulate Harold Shipman or Lucy Letby. Again, two people who are in the NHS who just love killing. But the thing is after this is that she was constantly brought on for interviews to defend her position on pushing this bill. And she seems even worse than Leadbeater. Here is her answer when asked about, don't you think the coercion's going to be a problem, though?
Actually, the evidence we've seen from other countries that have introduced assisted dying laws is that the most coercion actually happens with relatives trying to talk loved ones out of having an assisted death.
I mean, how psychotic do you have to be to say something like that? I take it back. I take back the naivety posting I was doing about this woman before. That is a purely psychotic thing to say. When it comes to people deciding what they should do here, we've actually found that the worst coercion, the most you're likely to see, is people telling people not to kill themselves. So let's not take the coercion thing seriously, because most people don't want their family to kill themselves. What planet are you on where you think this was a decent reply? I can't even get my head round to this way of thinking. I can't even understand how you have said that and think it was an appropriate thing to say.
And when we're talking about coercion, where doctors and medical professionals are looking out for it, we have to remember that they are doing that every single day, even in end-of-life care, looking out for that coercion. So they're very well versed in that already.
The doctors are very good at finding coercion, because we found that they're actually very good at noticing when there are loved ones around, people with suicidal thoughts, saying, please don't kill yourself. That is what has just been said there. To add on to the absurdity of this clip, Madeline Grant, who I believe used to work for the IEA and has a decent Twitter following, said, this is the MP who tried to do a point of order on Danny Kruger for using the word suicide. Here she says that the biggest problem of coercion visible in other countries is when people try to dissuade their loved ones from killing themselves. Sorry, this is monstrous. Yes, it's psychotic. To which Kat Eccles says, are you okay? Happy to meet and talk about this instead of you purposefully misrepresenting me. That's not a misrepresentation. That is what you said. Anyway, Madeline replies saying, no, I'm not okay after yesterday, but this is precisely what you said. You said that the most common form of coercion observed elsewhere is people trying to talk loved ones out of it. Perhaps you'd like to retract these awful remarks, but I haven't misrepresented you at all. To which Kat says, yeah, as in, oh, you were right, you didn't misrepresent me. And that's a fact that can be backed up with evidence from Australia. But you're happy to write in a national paper about me. Yeah, so it wasn't misrepresentation. And you just had a chat and doubled down on it. It's like, yeah, this is true. Again, it's this process brain. It's the, here's what the stats say, we should just follow it, and if we make it law, it's fine. No, the outcomes are going to be horrendous. So it's already bad enough that abortion every year kills 270-odd million babies. Now we're going to have assisted dying, where, okay, at the moment it's supposed to only be if you're terminally dying, you've got a few hours or days left to live, and apparently there's going to be safeguards in the way. But as we've seen elsewhere throughout the world, people want to kill themselves for having a depressive episode. It's obviously going to fall into this category. In fact, it's fallen there in Scotland. Scotland's going to be way worse than England and Wales here. Way worse. But there's one more quick one I want to go through, which is someone else on Twitter, Adam, saying that this is just a shambolic intervention from Kat Eccles. What the hell was that attempt? The whole, please don't use the term suicide. It makes me think bad things about this bill I support. Words have definitions, and the word suicide appears in the text of the bill 4 times, so it's obviously relevant. To which Kat Eccles replied, it's incorrect use of language and is offensive. The Samaritan's advice says this. To which Twitter's community notes had to say, the MP states the Samaritan's advice contains the view that it's incorrect and offensive to use the term state-sanctioned suicide. It's not true in any part of the Samaritan's media guidelines for reporting suicide. So this is a woman who is just lying through gritted teeth, being told at every point what you're doing is monstrous, because she naively thinks that ultimately the only things that matter in life are people's choices, and that they can go through with them consequence-free. It's not true. It's a very childish take on life. And it's absolutely amazing someone like this got voted into Parliament, but this is the clown decade, of course these type of people are going to get in. Anyway, I think with that is enough of this topic for today. I want to reiterate, I don't like the fact that Reform, well, 3 out of 5 of the Reform MPs voted for this. And odds are those 3 are going to vote it through at the next reading as well. I'm totally aware of that. But unfortunately, as I keep saying, they're the best we've got. So despite all this, and despite the fact that I find it quite disgraceful that they have done that, you kind of have to see through these things, I'm afraid. So I'm still fully backing Reform. This isn't something I'm going to lose my support over. And to be honest, it's a thing that they don't even have a party stance on. There's every chance that can change in the future should the arguments and the lobbying within the party get through properly, but we're not at that point yet. And either way, they've got 5 MPs. I don't think it's worth wasting energy trying to get them to change their mind on this when there's no chance they're going to stop it. I say this now, but then if the bill passes by 1 vote, I will happily eat those words, don't worry. But anyway, I thought I'd get that elephant in the room out of the way. For now, as I say, that's everything I had for you for today. So, shill time, please do subscribe. We want to get to 50,000 subscribers next. Do become a member, do send super chats and super thanks. They do really help the channel keep going, keep me almost getting videos out daily. I think we're all happy about that. When it comes to streams next week, on Monday we will have the Antiquity stream, carrying on with the Peloponnesian Wars. On Tuesday it will be Tosh Newscast, so no doubt we'll be going through all sorts of articles on assisted dying, along with many other pieces of news that we've had in the past 2 weeks, so do come along to that over on the Worcester Club. And then Saturday it should be Laughing at the Guardian, so do come along to that as well. Right, that's everything I had for you for today, so once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.